All right, part 4. This one is more so for the women because I did different behavior that I wanted to share that I found was effective. So when I did speak up, it was very effective. When I didn't speak up and I just let him have his way and do his thing, it just didn't do anything for me. And something tells me it didn't do maybe as much for him either. It would have just been a more mutually good experience if we co-create it instead of one leading while the other just is on along for the ride. So this can be educational for men and women, and especially women. You know, I'm one of those Christian girls, like where I grew up Christian in the church, non-denominational. It was actually a good experience. I went to a Christian college, which is Westmont College in Santa Barbara. I actually, before that, was a missionary to Russia in 1991. The first ones to be let into the country to be missionaries again, because they used to completely block anybody from coming in. So, and then I also taught at a Christian school, 4th grade, after I graduated with my master's. So you can imagine the Christian programming that I had and, you know, have still that lingers there. And this is kind of also just a common one in general for our culture, just not Christian necessarily, but just culturally. If I'm traditional, I was noticing kind of how I do expect the man to initiate or be the one to reach out or show interest first. However, I would often get the comment that I can be intimidating to them, you know, like they kind of chicken out when it comes to approaching me, or they're afraid to get rejected or whatever. And for some reason, the light went on to me about that recently, probably because of the discussions I've had with friends, male and female. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I need to make it easier for them then to feel like they can approach me. And so I had a little bit more empathy, like, oh, okay, I can make that easier. And, you know, because I usually just mind my own business. And if he's going to get my attention, then great. But most of the time I found that he wouldn't. And that I noticed a lot of opportunities missed when I can tell something's wanting to happen, but he like chickens out and doesn't quite approach me. So this is what I did different. I've mentioned before how I'm a regular at the nude beaches here in Kihei's side of Maui. And so I was at Little Beach, the most famous one, this Thursday. And he was parked right next to me and he was leaving at the same time I was. So I noticed that we seemed like we were both kind of stalling at our vehicles, getting ready to leave, you know, like putting stuff away and all that, and kind of checking each other out. And so he wasn't saying anything. So I'm like, fine, then I'll say something. And this is not like me, but I did. And it worked well. So his slippers were really squeaking, you know, which is what happens when they get wet from the water. And so I laughed and said something about it. So I made that first connect, right? And even after that, we both got in our vehicles and we're sitting there, you know, doing other stuff to get ready to go. And I think, and our windows were down. And so we were talking to each other. Like I asked him a question, I think about how I hadn't seen him there before. And we started talking. And then I said, you know, and this is something I would never normally do with a stranger, is I said, you know, it's my birthday. Can I have a birthday hug? And so we got out of our vehicles and went around to the back and hugged. So that's kind of what connected us to start talking, you know, from there, and things led from there, because, and I realized that if I hadn't done that, it wouldn't have happened. So then I think the next thing was that he said he was going to go to this secret hot tub spot that he knew about. And I said, oh, okay, I want to come. And we did that. And then we were going to be like leaving again, right? And we were in our separate vehicles, and And that's where, like, he was being such a gentleman, which I really appreciated, because I'm used to guys being, like, the guys that do approach me are usually so aggressive that I'm kind of like, whoa, down boy, you know. But he was being very much a gentleman that night and letting me lead what I was comfortable with. And he wasn't like making passes at me or anything like that. So I was the one that had to do that, or let him know that I was ready for that. So the way that looked, and this is so not like me, but, you know, we exchanged numbers, but then neither one of us, I think, were ready to just leave at that point. So I said, hey, I want to sit in your truck. Innocent, but not innocent. And we just started talking again. And so I was like, okay. So then I said, after a while, I was like, can I sit in your lap? And that's what did it. So I'm sitting in his lap in his truck, and then that's when, you know, the kissing started and stuff, and it was awesome. It was really beautiful, and I enjoyed it a lot. So anyway, I'm just sharing all this vulnerably because as a woman, I'm not used to having to be the one to sort of lead it along, you know, romantically. But I also appreciated that he let me do that at my pace. And it wasn't until I decided to say yes to the intercourse part later in the, you know, late after that night, that it kind of went downhill, and then he kind of made it all about him. So that was my lesson. And you know what? I'm not going to observe anymore in men in that process, because every time I do, they always do that same thing where they take care of themselves and then like kind of leave the woman out. And that's just seems to be a protocol like that they do. Anyway, I'm going to speak up like I did in this first experience that I just explained to you, and, you know, guide it, because it's up to me as the woman to say, hey, slow down. Like, I need you to, like, if I were to do it differently in the intercourse night that we had, I would have been like, oh, you know, hold on. Like, I need to drop in with you first. And that's where you look into each other's eyes and kind of connect, because that's the fastest way to connect, like on an energetic level. And you might just like chat a little bit, like, you know, whatever comes up, how your day was, or you might want to even discuss like things that need to be talked about, like the birth control piece, or what you like or don't like, and, you know, those kind of questions. We had already kind of done that before, so we didn't need to do as much of that, but still, like, I needed to drop in with him still, and before moving forward. And then I also would have said, whoa, you know, slow down. Like, I don't come during intercourse, so we need to do that first. Otherwise, you're going to be too tired after you release. And, you know, so it's up to me to say all those things. It's nice when the guy asks, because that shows that he knows how to be with a woman. But if he doesn't, which a lot of them don't seem to be there yet, you have to really speak up and be like, oh, you know, this is how we need to do this, because it works best, because otherwise you're too tired and you can't be present, and then I can't come if you're not fully focused and present. And I also, you know, I did speak up at one point, though, and say, hey, you know, this has been really intense, and I kind of want to see because I did mention to him before in a previous evening that, you know, I like it deep and slow, and I like that variety. You know, I love to be pounded, but I also, you know, like to have a range too, where it's slower and, you know, a little bit more connective. And that didn't really happen, so I did bring that up finally at that point. But, you know, it was kind of too late, because he'd already come twice. He was tired and not as present, and so it took longer for me to get there. And then I felt like an afterthought, you know. And then it's not as fun for him either, because he's tired, and probably feels like work at that point, instead of, you know, to me it feels like a guy should take care of the woman first, just to earn the right to go inside. I mean, that's kind of like a no-brainer anyway. You don't just go inside without like paying homage. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying my rendezvous story and all the lessons I got from it. So I hope that's helpful to you guys, because I know that was pretty revolutionary for me, for someone who's traditional Christian brought up and all that, and then to actually speak up and have it go well. And then when I didn't speak up, it didn't go well. And so, yeah, it's just a reminder. And I was rusty, you know, because I hadn't been dating and I hadn't been with someone in months. And I let my previous lover go several months ago because his communication was so poor. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm a really good communicator, and if you're gonna just like ghost me as soon as something gets difficult, then forget it. So anyway, I will see you in part 5.